I don't leave my phone face up beside my bed anymore. Not after the night when every screen around us displayed the same word, and it didn't behave like a message, but like an order. It happened in Milwaukee, late on a rainy Friday night, just before 11. The kind of cold drizzle that never commits to real rain, just taps endlessly against the windows. Traffic hummed 6 floors below, tires whispering over wet pavement. Miles' apartment smelled like pizza, damp jackets, and the sharp chemical clean of laundry detergent that never quite mossed old carpet. There were 5 of us there that night, me, Claire, Noah, and Jordan, plus Miles, pacing between the kitchen and living room like he always did when he drank. Unocards were scattered across the coffee table, bent and sticky at the corners. Cheap ale sat open and warm, sweating into little rings no one bothered to wipe away. We were arguing about house rules again, whether stacking drawer fours counted, whether skipping someone twice in a row was fair. Nobody cared enough to stop the argument, but nobody wanted to lose either. It was loud, casual, and stupid. Familiar in a way that made you feel safe without realizing it. That's probably why it took us so long to notice when the room stopped sounding normal. I stayed over because I was exhausted and didn't want to deal with an Uber in the rain. I'd worked a double that day, my feet still aching inside my shoes, my head buzzing in that dull way that comes from being around people for too long. Miles suggested I lie down on the sofa, and I agreed more readily than I should have. My phone battery was almost dead. I remember noticing the red sliver at the top of the screen and thinking I should plug it in, but I didn't want to be that guy. The one who keeps checking notifications while everyone else is mid-conversation. So I set it face down on the arm of the couch and told myself it could wait. We kept playing. Someone lost. Someone complained. Someone cracked another beer even though it was already getting late. The clock on the wall said 10:57 p.m., the second hand ticking loud enough that I noticed it only because everything else was quieting down. That was when my phone vibrated. Not a ring, not a notification sound. Just a single, sharp vibration against the fabric, strong enough that I felt it through my elbow. I flipped it over, already annoyed, expecting a low battery warning or some spam text. The screen was on, white background, no notification bar, no app header, just one word, centered perfectly in black letters. Hide. The font was wrong, too plain. Like something pulled from an old computer, back when menus were simple and ugly. No emoji, no punctuation, no sender name, just the word. I tapped the screen. Nothing happened. I pressed the power button. The screen stayed on. For a second, I honestly thought it was a joke, some dumb prank app I'd forgotten installing, or maybe a weird emergency alert. My phone had been acting up for weeks. The battery overheated sometimes. Screens glitch. That happens. Still, my mouth felt dry. Everything okay? Claire asked, not looking at me. Yeah, I said automatically, even though my thumb was starting to sweat against the glass. Just weird phone thing. I tried swiping. Tried holding the power button down longer. Tried the volume keys. The screen didn't dim. It didn't flicker. The word didn't move. Hide. It wasn't blinking. It wasn't animated. It just sat there, like it had always been there, and I was the one who just noticed. Jordan leaned over to peek. What's that? Probably a glitch, I said, quicker than I meant to. Emergency alert or something. He shrugged and went back to shuffling cards. I set the phone down again, face up this time, telling myself I was overreacting. The vibration hadn't repeated. No sound followed. The room felt the same. Warm. Normal. But I didn't take my eyes off the screen. And that was when the TV behind us made a soft, ugly crackle sound, like static being dragged across glass. The TV crackle faded into a thin hiss, like someone slowly turning a dial between channels. We all looked up at the same time, not because it was loud, but because it was wrong. Miles didn't have cable. He streamed everything, so the TV never did that. It was either a menu screen or it was off. The image on the TV flickered once, went black, then turned white. Centered on the screen, in the same old-fashioned black font, was the same word. Hide. For a second, my brain tried to force it into something normal, like subtitles stuck on, or a paused screen with a weird title card. I even glanced around for the remote, like that would explain it. But there was nothing else on the display. No app logo, no volume icon, no timestamp. Just the word, staring at us like it had always belonged there. Noah sat up. Okay, what the hell is that? Miles stood frozen near the kitchen doorway, one hand still holding a paper towel like he'd been wiping something. Did you do that? He asked, pointing at me like I had somehow cast it up there from my phone. I didn't do anything, I said. My voice came out flatter than I expected, like I was trying to keep it from shaking. Claire leaned forward, squinting like she could see pixels. Is that an emergency alert? She asked. Like a tornado thing. Jordan made a little laugh, but it sounded forced. Milwaukee doesn't do tornado alerts like that. Miles snatched up the remote and clicked it a few times. The TV didn't respond. No volume bar, no input menu, nothing. The hiss stayed steady, and the word stayed centered, perfectly crisp, like the TV wanted us to read it, and only it. My phone vibrated again. One sharp pulse, like a tap on the shoulder, I didn't pick it up immediately. I already knew what I was going to see. When I finally lifted it, the screen was unchanged. Hide. Claire's phone buzzed on the coffee table. Noah's buzzed a second later. Jordan's buzzed after that, and the timing was so clean it made my skin tighten. Like someone had pressed a button and sent the same signal to all of us, one after another. We all checked at once. Every screen in the room showed the same message. Same font, same black letters, same white background. Claire even had her brightness turned way down, and it didn't matter. Her screen was lit like a flashlight. No sender. No vibration patterns we recognized. No notification bar. No way to swipe it away. Nothing responded to touch. When Noah tried to power his phone off, the screen stayed lit like it was refusing to sleep. Jordan laughed again, louder this time, like volume could make it less real. Okay, this is an app thing, right? Like those prank chain texts? No, Claire said quickly. She was already trying to unlock her phone with her thumbprint over and over, getting that tiny frustrated crease between her eyebrows. This isn't a text. Miles tried his laptop. He flipped it open on the couch arm and typed his password. The screen came on, white background, hide. He slammed it shut like it had burned him. The room went quiet in a way that didn't match us. Usually when something weird happened, someone made a joke, someone talked over it, someone got up to pee. But we all sat there staring at our little rectangles of light, and the only sound was that thin TV hiss, steady and patient. I tried to think of anything that made sense. Emergency alert test, weird Amber Alert formatting, some kind of Wi-Fi hack where someone pushed an image to every device on the network. Miles was the type who left his router password as something stupid like password because he never thought about it. But that didn't explain my phone. My data was off, battery low, screen locked. It also didn't explain the font or the way the message didn't behave like software. It was too clean, too direct. It didn't ask, it didn't warn, it told. Hide. Noah stood up and walked to the window. He pulled back the curtain a few inches and peered down at the street. Is there something happening out there? Outside, Milwaukee looked the same as it had all night. Wet streetlights. Car headlights smearing in the drizzle. A couple walking fast under one umbrella. Nothing on fire. No sirens. No shouting. Just normal late-night city noise. Nothing, Noah said, but his voice was smaller than before. He didn't let the curtain fall back into place. He kept it pinched like he needed to keep checking. Jordan held his phone up like it might scan his face and accept him anyway. This is some broadcast thing, he insisted. Like that time Hawaii got the missile alert by mistake. Someone hit the wrong button. Claire looked at him. And it says hide. Maybe they're testing, I don't know, active shooter messaging? He said. And even he didn't sound convinced. Miles swallowed. I watched his throat move. I'm calling 911, he said. He lifted his phone to his ear, hit the side button out of habit, and then stopped. The screen didn't change. No keypad, no call screen. The word just sat there, centered, calm. Hide. Miles read out loud, like speaking it might break it. It won't let me do anything. I felt a tightness in my stomach that wasn't fear yet, more like the moment before a drop on a roller coaster when your body recognizes something your brain hasn't accepted. My eyes kept moving from device to device, searching for any tiny difference that would prove it was a glitch. There weren't any differences. Every screen around us was telling us the same thing, and the longer we ignored it, the more it felt like we were doing something wrong. The longer we sat there, the more childish it felt to keep debating it. Like if we could name the explanation, we could shrink it back down to a tech problem and go back to arguing about UNO. Maybe we should just go in the hallway, Noah said. He still had the curtain pinched between his fingers, knuckles pale. See if anyone else is getting it. Claire shook her head too fast. Or maybe we should do what it says. Jordan snorted, but the sound didn't land. Hide? From what? The rain. Miles paced a tight line between the coffee table and the kitchen entrance. He kept glancing at the front door like he expected it to open on its own. I don't like this, he said. And for Miles, that was basically a confession of terror. I could feel my own mind trying to bargain with itself. If we hid and nothing happened, we'd feel stupid. If we didn't hide and something happened, we'd never forgive ourselves. I hated that the message had already backed us into that kind of choice. My phone buzzed again, just once, and the word didn't change. It stayed steady, patient, like it wasn't going anywhere until we complied. Claire stood up first. She didn't make a speech or ask permission. She just walked down the short hallway toward Miles' bedroom like she'd already decided the argument was over. We followed without even looking at each other, as if saying it out loud would make it real. Miles hesitated a beat, then went last, still holding the remote like it mattered. His bedroom was small, unmade bed, clothes piled on a chair, a cheap floor fan in the corner that was off. Claire slid the closet door open. Inside were hanging jackets, a vacuum, cardboard boxes, and a stack of shoes that always threatened to fall. It smelled like dust and old fabric. This is so stupid, Jordan muttered, but he climbed in anyway. One by one, we crowded into the closet, shoulder to shoulder, trying not to step on each other's feet. I ended up half behind Noah, my cheek almost touching a hanging sleeve that felt cold and damp. Miles pulled the sliding door shut until it met the frame with a soft clack. For a second, nothing happened. Then the apartment shut down. It wasn't like the power went out. The closet was still faintly lit by the glow leaking in from the bedroom. But the sound, every normal sound, collapsed. The rain on the windows vanished mid-tap. The traffic hum below stopped like someone had muted the world. Even the wall clock we'd been hearing earlier, the one that had sounded too loud, went dead quiet. It felt wrong in a way I didn't have words for. Not silence like late at night. Not silence like snowstorm. This was silence like a room with vacuum-sealed air. Noah's breath hitched, loud in the absence of everything else. He tried to swallow and it sounded obscene, like we were making noise we weren't supposed to make. Claire lifted her phone up between us, the screen still showing Hyde, bright as a candle. The light made everyone's faces look sick. I could see the Jordan's eyes, too wide, trying not to blink. I pressed my own phone to my chest without thinking, like it could protect my heart. And then I felt it, the clean certainty of it, like a pressure change right before a storm. Something was standing right outside the closet. Not in the room, not across the apartment, not in the hallway. Right there. Close enough that the door between us suddenly felt like paper. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear breathing. I didn't hear anything at all. But the presence was there anyway, heavy and patient, like it had been waiting for us to do exactly what we did. Jordan's shoulder brushed mine, a tiny involuntary shift, and I flinched like the movement would give us away. The closet door didn't move. No one spoke. In that impossible quiet, time stopped behaving normally. I couldn't tell if we were holding still for 5 seconds or 5 minutes. My thoughts didn't feel like thoughts anymore, just snapshots. The front door, the peephole, the hallway light, the neighbor's doormat, the rain that should have been there and wasn't. And then right against the closet door came a soft touch. Gentle press, like someone testing whether it would give. My stomach tightened so hard I thought I might throw up. The touch moved slightly, fingertips maybe, sliding across the door like it was feeling for a seam. Then there was a sharp crack, sudden and dry, like static discharging inches from my face. And sound rushed back all at once. Rain reappeared in a chaotic burst. Traffic returned. The apartment seemed to exhale. The wall clock started ticking again as if it had never stopped. At the same moment, the glow from our phones dimmed, and when I looked down, the word was gone. My lock screen was back. Battery warning. Time. Normal. None of us moved for a full beat, like we didn't trust the world to stay turned on. Miles slid the closet door open just enough to peer out. The bedroom was exactly the same, but I knew, every part of me knew, that whatever had been out there hadn't left because it got bored. It had left because it was finished with that round. A minute passed with all of us standing there like we'd forgotten how to be normal. Miles stepped into the hall first, barefoot, moving slow. The rest of us followed, bunched up behind him, staring at the living room as if it might still be wrong. The TV was back to the paused streaming menu, like nothing had happened. The ale cans still sat where we left them. The rain sounded ordinary again, tapping and sliding down the glass. The air even smelled the same, pizza crust and detergent, and a faint sour note from old carpet. Nobody spoke for a while. It felt like speaking would invite the silence back. Miles finally let out a shaky laugh that didn't belong to him. "Okay," he said. "Okay, that was insane." Jordan rubbed his palms on his jeans. "So it's over, right? Phones are normal. TV's normal. We hid. Great, we did the thing." Claire didn't answer. She was staring at her screen like she expected the word to crawl back onto it. Noah had gone back to the window, peeking through the curtain again, like the street might have changed while we were in the closet. I picked up my phone and checked the battery. 7%. Time. 11:03. A couple missed notifications, nothing important. It was so aggressively normal that it made my stomach twist. It felt like a trick, like normal was the mask now. Then the knock came. Not on the apartment door at first, on the wall. A faint thud, like someone bumping into the hallway outside. Then clearer, 3 quick knocks on Miles' front door. We all froze again, instantly. Miles mouthed, "What the?" and then stopped himself. He looked at the door like it might bite. Another knock, faster, desperate. "Hello?" A woman's voice called through the door. "Is someone in there? Please, I need..." Claire's eyes went wide. "Mrs. Keene," she whispered. It was our neighbor from down the hall, the older lady who always smelled like menthol and wore the same light blue cardigan. She'd once yelled at Miles for leaving trash bags outside his door. She'd also once brought him a plate of brownies to apologize for yelling. She was that kind of person. Miles stepped toward the door without thinking, then stopped short and looked back at us like we could vote. "Don't," Noah said immediately, voice tight. She's just scared," Miles whispered. Jordan shook his head hard. No, we don't open it. Mrs. Keene knocked again, her breath audible between words. My phone, my TV, everything said. It said hide. Did you see it? Did you? I felt my throat close. Hearing her say the word out loud made it heavier. Not a glitch, not a prank. It was in the building. It had reached her. Miles leaned toward the peephole. Claire grabbed his wrist. Miles, don't. He pulled away, not angry, just panicked. I'm just looking. He put his eye to the peephole. I watched his face change in real time. Not shock exactly. More like his expression emptied out for a second, as if whatever he was seeing didn't have a shape his brain could file. He stepped back from the door. What? I asked, but my voice came out thin. Miles didn't answer. He swallowed, and his eyes flicked to the chain lock, then to the handle, then away like he couldn't decide what to do with his hands. Mrs. Keene knocked again, softer now, like she was trying to be polite. Please, I'm alone. I don't know what to do. Please let me in, just for a second. Noah mouthed, no, like a prayer. Miles whispered, she's right there. Then why? Claire started and stopped. Because we had all felt it. Whatever had been outside the closet. The way the apartment had shut down like a lid. The test on the door. If the word had been an order, then not following it had consequences. And maybe following it had consequences too. Maybe the whole point was to make us choose. Miles backed away from the door like he didn't trust it anymore. Mrs. Keene, he called, voice trembling. Just go back to your apartment and lock your... A sharp crack snapped through the hallway, loud enough that all of us jumped. Mrs. Keene screamed, one short cut-off sound, and then there was a wet dragging noise like something heavy being pulled along carpet. Silence. Not the impossible silence from before, just ordinary silence. The kind that comes after a sudden sound when everyone holds their breath to listen. Miles stumbled forward again, shaking. He put his eye to the peephole a second time. His lips parted. Guys, he said, barely audible. Oh my God. We crowded behind him, but the peephole only gave one of us a view. Miles moved aside just enough for me to look. Mrs. Keene was in the hallway, collapsed on her side near our door. One arm was outstretched toward the handle like she'd fallen mid-reach. There was a dark smear of blood along the baseboard dragged in a rough line, and her cardigan, light blue, looked almost black where it was soaked. Her eyes were open. And the worst part was how close she was to the door, like she'd been placed there on purpose. Like a reminder. Like proof that it wasn't random. We didn't open the door. I don't remember anyone saying it out loud, but the decision settled over us like a weight. Miles backed away from the peephole, shaking his head over and over, like denial might rewind the last 30 seconds. Claire covered her mouth with both hands. Jordan stared at the floor, breathing fast like he was about to be sick. Noah was the first one to say it. It's not done. His voice was calm in a way that scared me more than panic would have. We stood there listening, waiting for footsteps, waiting for something to drag her body away, waiting for anything that would explain what we'd just seen. Nothing happened. Then my phone vibrated. One pulse. Firm. Intentional. I didn't want to look. None of us did. But the glow filled the room anyway. 5 screens lighting up almost in sync. Hide. Same font. Same white background. Same command. Claire made a broken sound in her throat. We can't stay together. Jordan swallowed. Why? Because if it worked once, it won't work again, she said. That's how games work. The word game didn't feel right, but it also didn't feel wrong. Whatever this was, it had rules, it had feedback, it punished mistakes. Miles nodded slowly. We split up. No one argued. We didn't hug. We didn't promise anything. We just scattered, driven by the same quiet urgency, like animals separating before a fire. I ran toward the laundry, nook near the back of the apartment. It wasn't really a room, just a narrow space with a stacked washer and dryer and a flimsy utility closet wedged beside them. I yanked the door open and squeezed inside, twisting sideways to fit between cleaning supplies and a folded stepladder. The door didn't latch. I grabbed the handle and pulled it shut, holding it with both hands, my forehead pressed against the wood. My phone buzzed once more, then went still, and then the sound vanished again. Not gradually, instantly. The apartment didn't go quiet, it went empty. Like someone had erased the concept of noise. My breathing felt too loud inside my skull, so I slowed it down, shallow and careful. That was when the handle moved. Not yanked, not rattled, just pressure. Slow, steady pulling from the other side, testing the resistance like fingers curling around it. I didn't pull back, I didn't brace. I just held it exactly where it was and stayed completely still. The pressure increased for a few seconds, then stopped. I don't know how long I waited after that. Long enough for my arms to start shaking. Long enough for my thoughts to turn ugly and mean and paranoid, whispering things I didn't want to think. My phone lit up again. The word had changed. Break. And with it came a feeling I can't fully explain, like irritation that wasn't mine. Like suspicion creeping in sideways. A sudden certainty that someone else had messed up, that someone else deserved what was happening more than me. I hated how fast those thoughts came. I hated how convincing they felt. Somewhere in the apartment, something shattered, glass exploding outward, sharp and violent. Then another crash, and another. I knew then that hiding wasn't enough anymore. Whatever this was, it wanted more from us, and I was terrified of what it was going to ask next. The crashes stopped as suddenly as they started. No echo, no settling. Just the sense that something had been completed. I stayed in the utility closet, still gripping the handle, afraid that if I let go the door would open on its own. My arms burned. Sweat ran down my back and soaked into my shirt, cold in the dead air. I kept waiting for another pull, another test, but nothing touched the door again. My phone buzzed. The silence didn't lift, but the word changed. Find. I stared at it, my brain slow and thick like it was underwater. Find wasn't a command to hide. It wasn't passive. It meant movement. It meant exposure. And as if to underline the point, something exploded somewhere in the apartment. Glass again. Closer this time. I flinched hard enough that my shoulder hit the wall. Another crash. The TV, I realized. Then something metallic clattered across the floor. I understood then that the apartment was being dismantled piece by piece, forcing us out. Hiding spots were being erased. Choices narrowed. I eased the door open an inch and listened. Sound crept back unevenly, like a bad connection. Distant rain, the building's pipes, my own breathing. I slipped out into the hall, keeping close to the wall. The living room looked wrong. The TV screen was shattered inward, glass glittering across the rug. Claire's phone lay face down near the couch, screen cracked into a spiderweb. Noah's laptop was split cleanly in half on the table, keyboard torn out like teeth. Only one screen was still intact. Miles' old phone, the backup one he kept dead most of the time, was lit up under the overturned UNO box. Smile. The word made my stomach lurch, not because it was violent, but because it was intimate. Wrong in a different way. I heard movement then, footsteps. Not heavy. Careful. Jordan appeared from the bedroom, his face pale and streaked with sweat. He saw me and froze, relief and fear crossing his face too fast to separate. He saw me and froze, relief and fear crossing his face too fast to separate. Don't, I started. His phone buzzed. Mine buzzed with it. Smile. We stood there, staring at each other, and I felt the pressure again, not physical, but insistent. Like being watched by something that expected compliance. Jordan's mouth twitched upward, involuntary, like a reflex. No, he whispered, fighting it. No, no, no. But his lips pulled back anyway, teeth showing, eyes wet, a grin stretched across his face that didn't belong to him. I realized then that this wasn't about survival. It was about participation, and we were running out of ways to refuse. I forced my face still, jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Jordan's smile wavered, flickering like bad signal, and for a second I thought it might break on its own. Then the pressure eased just a little, like something stepping back to observe. The word vanished. We both exhaled at the same time. That was when the final command appeared. Point to a victim. Below it, a countdown timer started ticking. 30 seconds. My chest went tight. What does that even mean? I whispered, though I already knew. The word victim didn't feel symbolic, it felt literal. The timer kept going. 25. Jordan shook his head. No, we're not doing this. The apartment groaned softly like it was settling, or stretching. Somewhere behind us, glass crunched under a slow, deliberate step. 20. I thought of Mrs. Keene's outstretched hand. How close she'd been to the door. How the message hadn't changed until after she was gone. 15. This thing wants someone, I said. My voice sounded distant, like it wasn't mine. It wants us to choose. Jordan looked at me, eyes wide and shining. Choose who? 10. And then it clicked. Not like a plan, but like remembering a rule we'd already learned the hard way. It wanted acknowledgement, proof that we understood the structure. The game didn't require a living sacrifice. It required agreement. 5. I raised my arm, fingers trembling, and pointed toward the front door, toward the hallway beyond it, toward the place where Mrs. Keene still lay. Jordan stared at me in horror for half a second. Then he followed my gesture. The timer hit 0. The screen went blank. For a moment, nothing happened. Then text appeared again, smaller this time, almost conversational. Nice. You learned the rules. Every screen went dark at once. The apartment fell quiet, not wrong this time. Just empty. Police came later. So did paramedics. They asked questions we couldn't answer. They took notes like they were filling space, not expecting resolution. Mrs. Keene was pronounced dead in the hallway, cause unclear. No weapon, no suspect. Eventually they left. None of us stayed. Sometimes late at night my phone lights up on its own. I don't pick it up anymore. I just wait, terrified, to see if it tells me to hide again. I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. We separated before dawn, not arguing, not promising to keep in touch. There was nothing left to say that felt safe. I walked home in wet shoes, replaying the hallway over and over, convinced I'd hear the knock again. The police followed up once. They asked if Mrs. Keene had enemies, if she'd been depressed, if she took medication. They didn't ask about the screens. When I mentioned them, the officer wrote something down and changed the subject. Miles moved out a month later. The apartment was rented again within weeks. I still wake up to my phone lighting the room by itself. No vibration, no sound, just the glow. I never turn it over anymore. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, waiting to see if a word appears. Because now I know the rules. And I know it doesn't stop after one round.